What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Law of Sports podcast. I'm your host, Brian Finnegan, joined by Tom Schultz. Tom, what's going on?
Doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Just trying to sit back and enjoy these games that are part of the tournament. But I got to say, a little disappointed today until, well, the last couple of games, I guess, right? We'll get into it right now. But overall, not a great tournament in my eyes. Kind of okay at best. Had a couple good games, but let's get into it. So, right tonight, folks, we're bringing you a bonus episode of the Law Sports Podcast. We're going to preview the Sweet 16 matchups, which will be held on Thursday, March 26th and Friday, March 27th. So at the time of our recording, there are still some games that need to finish and some that haven't even started yet, of course, which we were just talking about, 9:45 on a Sunday night, not
East
the
Coast.
yeah, on the East Coast, not the best time for us working folks. But we can kind of, we'll project the field from there for those late games, I think. So through the first two rounds, we've had a couple good games. I think really my favorite games so far, Tom, have actually been the games that occurred late last night. Vanderbilt, Nebraska, really good back and forth. Pretty, pretty crazy game with Randy, right? They threw up the half court three at the end there and it rims out. Nebraska, though, picks up the win. And then High Point against Arkansas. I mean, High Point, dude, clap it up for High Point, man. I didn't expect them to give Arkansas the game that they did. And then, all right, Kentucky, Santa Clara in the first round was good. UNC VCU, UNC blew that game. But yeah, just your thoughts and, what were some of your favorite games that you've been watching so far this weekend?
So just to add, I think the Vanderbilt Nebraska game has been the best game of the tournament up until probably an hour ago, the Kansas St. John's game. I think the Vanderbilt Nebraska game was better basketball. I don't necessarily think the St. John's Kansas game was great basketball. It was exciting. Quick note on that Vanderbilt game. Tanner, the kid who took the half-court shot, had that happen to him earlier this season. So he had a very similar situation where they picked up a loose ball around half-court, and he took a half-court shot to, I don't know if it was to win or tie that game, and it rimmed out almost the same way. I've never seen anything like that. So yeah, those games were good. The Kentucky Santa Clara game was good. I enjoyed the UNC VCU game. You have that listed here as well. To see VCU come back, but yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to see what's happening in the landscape of college basketball, similar to college football, but I think having a bigger impact on what we love as March Madness versus the college football playoff, where we've seen the NIL, which is the name, image, and likeness, where athletes can profit off of their name, image, and likeness. And the unlimited transfer rule, which I think has had a much bigger impact in college basketball versus what both those things are doing in college football. I actually looked it up very quickly. So in 2014, 15, 16, in the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, respectively year to year, we had 14, 12, and 13 games decided by 5 points or less. Now, I don't know how you feel or what people listening feel to judge what a close game is. Because in 2015, for example, there were a number of games that were 6-point games. So there are games that are close and maybe don't necessarily go down to the wire. But I just, looking at things as a whole, I said, well, let's pick 5 points. It's a 2-score game. Usually it's a 3-point game or 2-point game with however many seconds left in the game, and maybe it's a foul. So it was double digits in all those years. In 2024, which I believe was the first year of the unlimited transfer, it was still 12. Last year it was 9, and this year in 2026, as of now, it's been 7. So there's clearly been an impact on the first weekend. Now, that's not to say there weren't exciting games. Duke Siena was an exciting game, even though that wasn't a 5-point game. UConn Furman, Clemson, Iowa. There were 2 or 3 games in the last 2 days that have been decided by 6 points. So maybe it's closer than we want to give it credit, but there was a point in the last 2 days that favorites had gone 24-0 or something like that in terms of Vegas betting odds. And again, not the perfect parameter, but I think what I used to love about this tournament, which was the first weekend when we were in our 20s in college,
Yeah.
you get done with class and just watch it all day, have friends over. I think that's changed, and we can argue whether it's for better or for worse. I think this upcoming weekend, when we preview these games, are going to be really good because these are the teams that have the financial means in most cases to get the best players in the country. And the Cinderellas of the St. Peter's or the Florida Gulf Coasts or VCU before they were what they are now of those teams making Final Fours. I'm sure they will still happen. I just don't think it's going to be very frequent.
Yeah, I agree with that take there. I'll start off with saying, yeah, the St. John's Kansas game. I mean, right? I mean, it wasn't a great game. I would consider it by any stretch until what the last like 5 minutes maybe of the game when Kansas went on that run, and then St. John's hit the layup at the buzzer to win the game. But yeah, I mean, really, at the end of the day, right? I mean, like, what do you like? I mean, and I'm asking our audience here. Let us know definitely. Like, what do you consider like a good game? Is it just a really good, exciting game to you? If it's like a close game where it's like, maybe a game like in the 50s towards the end of the game and, just because it's within a possession or two, you're heavily invested in it, or would you rather see a game, maybe a team ends up winning, maybe a favorite ends up winning by like 10 to 12 points, but it's a good back and forth game, a lot of teams making shots, really good transition games up and down the court. I mean, it's really, I guess, open to an interpretation that way. And yeah, and as far as NIL goes, yeah, I mean, we've really seen it. I mean, the days of like the mid majors. I mean, right, High Point, they had their chance. I mean, tip my cap to them. Nobody expected that, right? But I mean, the days of the Florida Gulf Coasts. I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson a couple of years ago, right? They beat Purdue, but that's kind of like that was kind of fluky. Yeah, I mean, the days, the days of like your George Masons, your Bradleys, teams like that over the past,
Davidson with
like for
Steph
us growing
Curry.
up. Yeah, for us growing up, 15, 20 years ago, I mean, that was, usually like every other year you'd see a team like that maybe make it to the Sweet 16. But yeah, I mean, these teams that they can't put the money forth that these bigger programs can, like in the Big Ten and the SEC. I think it's really gonna, we'll probably still see one on occasion, make their way through, maybe one every like 3 to 4 years, something like that. Maybe one gets to the Sweet 16, maybe one makes it to the Elite Eight, but yeah, I think that this is definitely, with NIL, unless something changes with the NCAA, in the next year or two where they, maybe review I think it's going through kind of like the federal government too, right?
Oh,
Wasn't
that's good.
wasn't like Trump coming out saying like,
I'm,
oh, we
I'm
got to do
sure.
about
I'm
this.
sure that'll end well.
Yeah, so who knows, right? When the government gets involved, it's always usually it gets messier. But yeah, with that being said, I agree. For the past couple of years. I mean, right, I think like what was it? The team in Illinois, I think they were the last team to really make it to the Final Four, right? Who was it? Oh man, a couple of years back we had that I can't think of their name. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
But there was a Final Four run in there from that team. But yeah, let's
and
go ahead.
and just to your point, I think that's totally fair. And to me, like, I would love to hear what people have to say, and if there are barometers in which people judge closer games, by all means, let us know, and I'd love to look into those numbers. Like right now, I was up 10 on Florida. I think that's still exciting, right? I'm not asking necessarily for Cinderella runs. I just want the first weekends to feel like they matter. And there were a lot of games this weekend, and there are always games in the past where there are blowouts, but it's feeling like the last 2 years more so than what they were before that. It feels like this first weekend isn't as exciting as it used to be. And maybe that's where the tournament goes, and maybe they'll look to expand it even more, and we'll get a bunch of more teams that aren't deserving who make it, and then the games will be tighter because it's bad basketball. Who knows? But yeah, it was just interesting watching this weekend being like, feels like this is another one where outside of like the Kentucky game and a couple other games, Vanderbilt, Nebraska last night, TCU coming back, there didn't feel like there was a lot, but maybe that's where we are for first weekends.
Well, I will say, I think maybe the biggest story of the tournament so far has been how phenomenal some of these freshman players have been. Like we spoke about in our preview episode, right? Cameron Boozer from Duke, Kingston Flemings from Houston, Jeremy Fierce from Michigan State, Darius Acuff from Arkansas have all been phenomenal so far in this tournament. And we'll get into them as their teams all did advance to the Sweet 16. So let's do this. Why don't we go through each of the regions right now? We'll go through the matchups that are currently set up, and then maybe we'll project ahead a little bit for the future matchups as we still have some of these games waiting to go final here. So let's start in the South region. So we've got Houston, who was the number 2 seed, versus Illinois, number 3 seed, right? Chalk pick, right? As we kind of expected going in anyway, right? So Houston rolls through Idaho in the first round, 78-47. Then they beat Texas A&M in the second round, 88-57. Illinois does the same. They beat the University of Pennsylvania 105-70 and VCU 76-55. So, right, so neither team's really been tested yet. But I think it's a really interesting matchup, right? Houston, very physical team, suffocating defense. They're going to be playing against an Illinois team, very high octane offense, and they specialize in the transition game. So, really good clash of styles here. what Houston has going for them, and the game's actually being played in Houston at the Toyota Center. So, it's right in the Cougars' backyard there. Right. Kingston Flemings, he's averaging 16.5 points per game. He's going up against Illinois' Keaton Wagler, 17.9 points per game that he's averaging. Illinois, of course, with the I think it's pronounced Ivizic brothers, but I'll leave that up to you if you know how to pronounce it.
No
Um,
shot.
but Houston, yeah, they're more undersized in this matchup, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do to contain those two twin towers they got over there with Illinois. Thoughts on that game?
Contrasting styles, right? Like this is what we love about March. This is an Illinois team that wants to come in. They want to play fast. They're going to take a ton of threes. I think they're top 10 in the country in 3-point attempts. So they're going to want to score the ball and play fast. And Houston is known for their defense. Kingston Flemings is awesome. He's as good as advertised. You're going to hear us talk about these freshmen. There's a reason why every NBA person is saying this is the best draft class in years to come, because there are 6, 7, 8 freshmen that are going to be picked in the lottery that all could be impact players. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. If you told me who to pick, I don't know who I would pick. I love the way Illinois has been playing, and I love the way they play offense. But there are days they come out and don't shoot the best from three. And that's so important for what they want to do. And for Houston, you said it, they aren't the biggest basketball team. They score a good amount of points themselves, but I don't know if they've seen size like this all year long. Maybe outside of Arizona, haven't really played teams that have seen size like this all year. So yeah, I'm excited for this one.
All right, the other game in the excuse me, the South region, right? So Nebraska is currently waiting upon the winner of the Florida Iowa game. I would say we project Florida right now, but Florida's currently down by 8, about 11 minutes to go in the
We're
second
getting
half.
closer to projecting Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should project Iowa.
Getting close.
Right, well, we can talk Nebraska a little bit here, right? So they blow out Troy in the first round, 76-47, their first ever NCAA tournament win. And then they pick up their second ever NCAA tournament win against Vanderbilt, the game we were just speaking about at length last night. Wild back and forth game, right? So assuming Florida wins, or maybe assuming Iowa wins, right? Nebraska's best player is Price Sanford. Oh, he likes to shoot the three. I think overall, Nebraska is a team that really likes to shoot from the outside. All their guys shot pretty well in the game against Vanderbilt. And Florida, we know, is a really great rebounding team as long as they take care of the ball, don't turn it over. I think we could expect them to possibly win that game. But I don't know the way Iowa's looking right now. Iowa um, let's see, Iowa is up by 6 right now with still 11 minutes to go. But yeah, your thoughts overall, maybe not just on the potential matchup with Nebraska and Florida, but maybe just Nebraska as a team, how they look going into the Sweet 16.
Yeah, Fred Hoiberg rebuilt this team after winning the crown last year, which is the new tournament, got some NIL money, and he like really rebuilt this roster. They had a really good start and middle of the season. Then they went on a rough stretch in the Big Ten where they lost. They actually finished the year pretty rough. You would think on paper they'd won Iowa, but they've played Iowa twice, and at Iowa they lost, and at home took them to overtime. Or actually, that might have been the game in the that's the game in the Big Ten tournament. So at a neutral site, it took overtime to beat Iowa. So it's a team that clearly doesn't match up great with them. So yeah, I think either matchup's going to be a tough matchup for Nebraska. I'm sure, of course, they'd rather Iowa than Florida. I think Florida would be a really tough matchup, especially with the size that Florida has and the guard play. Sanford's a lot of fun to watch. He shoots the ball really well, shooting about 48% from the field, 41% from three, which is kind of absurd. But yeah, I'm curious to see who wins this Florida Iowa game, as Florida has it down to 4 now. I think if it's Florida, they're the favorites going into this, and if you're Nebraska, you're 1-1 against Iowa. You'd probably rather face the team that you know and you've beat more recently than a Florida team. You don't know that maybe they get pushed to the limit tonight and find a way to win, and now they're feeling really good about themselves.
All right, let's move along to the West region. One game we know for sure, Texas will be playing Purdue. So Texas beat NC State in the first 4 on Tuesday night, 68-66. Then they beat BYU in the first round, 79-71, and then they beat Gonzaga 74-68 to get to the Sweet 16. So 3 wins in a week for Texas, which pretty impressive for a team that lost 5 of its last 6 during the regular season. And of course, they got knocked out of the SEC tournament. I believe it was in the first round against a really bad Ole Miss team. And they'll be matched up with Purdue, right, who beat Queens in the first round, 104-71. and then they beat Miami, Florida 79-69 in a game this afternoon, which was pretty good in the first half. I was enjoying the game in the first half. Second half kind of seemed to like die down a little bit. Purdue basically took control of the game, and that's all she wrote for Miami, Florida. But I mean, really, Texas coming into this game, Texas looks like a brand new team. Their center has been playing really good. Vocatitis, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's been really dominant in the tournament. Had a real good game against Gonzaga. And of course, we've got Purdue's Braden Smith against Texas's Dalen Swain. That should be a pretty good guard matchup there. So any thoughts on Texas, and can they get through the Boilermakers?
Yeah, so Texas, Sean Miller came from Xavier, took Swain, might have taken one or two other guys with him. Swain's been really good. Even, someone who watches the Big East a lot, I don't know if I thought he'd be this level of player for Texas. Texas was really bad to finish the season. Like there's no way around it. I would also say I think they've been really fortunate to kind of draw what they've drawn. Their toughest matchup has probably been their first 4 win. They played BYU, and DeBonza, the freshman, who I think has solidified himself as the number 1 overall pick, did everything he could to try to win that basketball game. But they were also without Richie Saunders, who was their second best player. So Texas gets BYU without their second best player, and they were probably a better overall team. Then they played Gonzaga, who was without their best player, Braden Huff. They were probably overseeded. They earned that seed, but without Huff, they probably were never really a 3 seed. So I really think this is Texas's first real test in the tournament. And again, Purdue has been so hit or miss. They finished the year really poorly. They looked great in the Big Ten tournament, really good. And then today, I really didn't think they looked that good at all. They closed out well, and they played well, and they have the pieces you like. But for a team that has Braden Smith, who just set the all-time NCAA assist record, the team turned the ball over way too much today. I really like Vocatitis from Texas. I think he's been awesome. Neither BYU or Gonzaga had an answer for him. Purdue will have an answer for him. They pride themselves on being physical on the inside. But I think if you're either team, you probably like your chances. But for Purdue, for a team that you feel is always one step away from getting to where they need to go, you feel like this is their best chance of making it to at least an Elite Eight and a potential matchup with Arizona to make the Final Four. So if they don't do it now, if you're a Purdue fan, you're really going to start asking yourselves, like, how long is it going to be before we can get back to that game again?
We'll say Florida's down 1 right now. I think there's
Yeah,
about
they went on a run.
yeah, they're going on a run here. Okay, let's stick in the West region. Arkansas, right after beating High Point last night, will face the winner of the Arizona-Utah State game. Right now, that game's about a minute until halftime. Arizona is currently up 10, I believe. Yep, they just went up 10, 32-22. So I think we can. It's my show. We're projecting Arizona. That's who I think is going to win.
I'm with you. We're
You
projecting Arizona.
Right. We're projecting Arizona here to face Arkansas. So, right, Arkansas, right, they beat Hawaii in the first round, 97-78. They beat High Point in the second round, 94-88. Darius Acuff, right, real good game against Hawaii, right, 24 points, 7 assists. Then against High Point in the second round, 36 points. He stepped up when he needed to get Arkansas through a very gamely High Point team. And assuming Arizona wins this game, you've got Jaden Bradley and Braden Burries versus Darius Acuff. I think that would be an absolutely incredible matchup to see. Your thoughts on a potential Arkansas-Arizona matchup in the Sweet 16?
Yeah, again, Calipari, we can debate if he got run out of Kentucky. If he didn't, I tend to think he got run out of Kentucky, and I think Kentucky would take him back in a heartbeat now. This is, I'm pretty sure, 2 second day or second weekends for Calipari since he's come to Arizona. We all know Calipari. I like the composite of this team. A-Cup, Brazil, are really, really good basketball players. They have DJ Wagner, a New Jersey kid. Malik Thomas has played really well for them. So this is a team that wants to score. They want to get up and down the court. They're almost like, it's like similar to if you see Alabama in the Sweet 16. If this team shoots 40% from the field, we're talking about putting up 90 points. And in college, I don't care how good you are, that's tough to do. Yeah, I think Arizona's going to play in this game, and I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Arizona. Arizona has everything to deal with this Arkansas team, so I'm not sitting here like this is going to be a really tough matchup for Arizona. I'm sure Arkansas will make things difficult, especially on the defensive side of the floor. Like, Acuff is someone you have to account for. He's a kid who's going to continue to raise his draft stock with every game he plays. He was awesome yesterday, and he's one of those kids that anytime he touches the ball, you think he can score. Arizona, I'm sure, would feel confident and about slowing them down, but also imposing what they want to do on offense. If it's Arizona, and we think it's going to be, they have so many weapons on offense. We can just name the guy after guy after guy that can score. That when one's struggling, the other one can step up. If two are struggling, there's a third, there's a fourth. I think this would be a really fun game. And I'd love to see Cal coach against Tommy Lloyd, but this sure feels like a setup that, like, if Arizona doesn't get there with this group, similar to Purdue in a sense, but even more so than Purdue, like, you got to start asking questions of, like, can Tommy Lloyd ever get this team over the hump, at least in terms of making it to a Final Four? Because you look at what's below him and even this Arkansas team that they're going to play, for as well as they play offensively, there's a chance that this team might come out and shoot 28% from the field and score 60 points. And they don't defend well enough that I'm worried about if they struggle to score, them locking me down defensively. So I think if you're Arizona, you feel good about anything. But again, Arkansas, I think if we asked Arkansas fans this question a couple weeks ago, like, do you think you're good enough to make it to this point? I'd be interested to see how many would tell you yes. So even with Acuff, even with the talent they have on the team, they struggled a bit this year, and they struggled to be consistent. They had some bad losses. So yeah, I'm very, very curious, and they're playing good basketball now, so that's what matters. But this would be another fun matchup if we get Arizona Arkansas.
All right, let's move to the Midwest region. Right now, right, Michigan's still in. They're the number one. They're awaiting the winner of the Texas Tech Alabama game.
I can't wait for that game.
That's going to be a really good game,
I'm
and
so excited for that
I
game.
don't know, like we were just talking about earlier. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through that
I'll
game.
take a nap during halftime.
There you go. So they're going to play the winner of, yep, Texas Tech Alabama. So far in the tournament, right? So Michigan's beaten Howard 101-80. A game Lee Howard team, they gave Michigan a pretty good game, especially in the first half and into the early second half. But Michigan ended up pulling away late, and then Michigan also beat a pretty good St. Louis team, 95-72 in the second round. Morez Johnson, right? He's coming off a really good performance in the first round. He recorded a 20-10 double-double. Like Michigan's Elliot Shadow, he's been very good in the tournament so far as well. Your thoughts overall on Michigan, and who would you like to see them play between Texas Tech and Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, I think Michigan has figured it out. They struggled with that Big Ten tournament loss, but I think they've moved on from that. And this is the Michigan we thought they were going to be all year. Remember, this is a team, and again, like, we'll get to Duke and talk about how good or bad Duke really is, but they took Duke to the wire. They lost to Purdue, who looks like they figured their stuff out. They're a really balanced team. I mean, Landenberg is probably my favorite player in the tournament. I think this kid can do it all. Can pass, can rebound, can score, at a monster dunk the other day. They're really well balanced as well. And, as you said, I think Cadeau, former Bergen Catholic player, for those that don't know, in Bergen County here, he's playing his best basketball right now, which is what they needed. A kid that was at North Carolina, they were kind of like, sure, you can go. We're not going to miss you next year. I think he took a little bit of offense to that, shooting the ball a little bit better in the tournament, controlling things well, and they have good size. They can match up with a lot of teams on the inside. I'm sure they would probably rather see Texas Tech, a Texas Tech team that doesn't have their best player, a Texas Tech team that is more known for their defense than offense. Again, a team like Alabama is always really scary. They can go home putting 90 points up on any day, at any time. So yeah, I'm sure they look at the two matchups and they'd rather not play Philon or Holloway or those guards that can really get at you and score. But I think whoever they play, Michigan, with the way they're playing right now, are going to be favorites. And that one against St. Louis was impressive to me. St. Louis pushed them for a part of that basketball game. That's a St. Louis team that wants to push pace. That's a St. Louis team that wants to score, similar to Alabama. And Michigan was like, yeah, okay, like we'll play at your pace, we'll wear you down, and we'll be the team that scores 90 points. There's a reason that a lot of people think this team is one of the three best teams in the country, and they've showed it so far through this tournament.
All right, the other Midwest game. So Tennessee, right, who just beat Virginia. That game recently went final. So Tennessee is in the Sweet 16. They had a big win against Miami, Ohio, 78-56 in the first round. And then, right, they just beat Virginia 79-72. And then they'll be facing Iowa State, who in the first round beat Tennessee State 108-74, and then they just beat Kentucky today 82-63. Iowa State looks really good so far in this term, and I know Kentucky, right? I mean, we were talking about them a little earlier. Well, personally, I wasn't too high on Kentucky anyway coming in to this tournament. Yeah, Tennessee's Jacoby Gillespie, he's looking pretty good here too, and I think I'd like to see him go up against those boys from Iowa State. Thoughts on this upcoming game?
I was really impressed with Iowa State tonight. To be a 2 seed that's kind of been not talked about a lot, and kind of just floating around there despite having a really good season. They went down 12 in this basketball game and rallied back to go up 1 by halftime, and then came out in the second half and absolutely played Kentucky off the floor. They're gonna shoot a ton of threes. I watched them today. I'm gonna butcher the name. Momo Klevich? That name, Mama Cleavage, this kid is maybe the best pure shooter I've ever. He's shooting 50% from 3. People, that is an absurd number. I think it's actually down now. He had the NCAA all-time record for a single season three-point percentage at like 49.7%. I think it's 49.4. I'm looking at it now. But this is another team that wants to shoot the 3. They can score a lot. They're going to have to rebound the ball. That's something they've struggled with this year, and something that Tennessee can do at least better than them. But Iowa State really impressed me today, and I'm looking at them now and going, if they can get to Michigan, I think they'd like their chances. Lipsy is a really fun guard to watch. Quick change of pace, can get to the hoop, controls things really, really well. Tennessee's going to have to be physical. They're going to have to run these guys off of the three-point line. They're going to have to try and absolutely rebound the ball, and if they can do that, they have a chance to win this basketball game. But Iowa State showed me a lot with their win today. Even if it's a Kentucky team that like you, I don't really rate. I'm not really overly impressed with them. But we've seen teams. I mean, we're seeing it with Florida right now, who's up 2. There's something to when you go down double digits. We've seen teams not come back from that, and when you show the moxie to do that, it says a lot about the makeup of your team, and that shouldn't go unsaid.
Were you about to say that kid from Iowa State's the best shooter you ever saw? Did you catch yourself?
I mean, I probably was gonna say. I mean, listen, man, Steph's yeah, he's the best shooter I've ever seen. This kid's shooting almost 50% from
It's
3-point. Now,
ungodly.
granted, the situations are different. I'm sure Steph would have shot 60% in this offense with this many weapons, but like that's an absurd thing to. When this kid gets an open look, you don't think he's gonna miss. Steph's the same way, but like for this kid to do it, it's fun to watch.
So we'll move on to the East region here. So maybe the most popular matchup of the Sweet 16, Duke and St. John's. So Duke, right, that really tight game with Siena in the first round. They beat them 71-65, and then they handled TCU pretty easily in the second round, 81-58. St. John's beats Northern Iowa 79-53, and then today they beat Kansas 67-65 on the buzzer beater layup. And St. John's was in control most of the game. Kansas made their run with at the end there, but St. John's holds them off. So, right, you're going to get Cameron Boozer versus Zuby Ejiofor. Boozer was pretty quiet in the first half against TCU, but then, right, he exploded for a big 17 points in the second half of that matchup, pull away from TCU. So, thoughts on the St. John's Duke matchup?
Yeah, if St. John's plays the way they played today, take out the last 5 minutes of that basketball game against Kansas, they can beat any team in the country. Kansas is really, really good with their interior defense. They did a great job taking away Zuby, taking away Bryce Hopkins, getting to the hoop, even taking away guys like Mitchell, getting to the hoop and creating things for themselves. If St. John shoots as well as they did from 3 today, they can beat anybody. So there's a world where they come out against Duke, shoot 40% from 3, and then once you have to start closing these guys down, they'll kill you on the inside. I think Duke is just a better basketball team. Like I said, I wasn't overly impressed with how well St. John's played on the offensive side of the floor. Their defense is the best it's been all year. We saw it with UConn. We saw it today against Kansas. I mean, Kansas had issues inbounding the ball. But I just think Duke is just a better constructed team than what Kansas was. Maybe not UConn, but yeah, I think this is going to be a great matchup. I was really disappointed with Cameron Boozer in that first game against Siena. They got the center back, which I think is going to be massive for them. He's going to be able to go up against Zuby. I'm not saying he's going to win the matchup, but at least they don't have to worry about how we're going to stop this guy, whether it's Cameron Boozer or somebody else on him. This is the matchup that I'm sure the NCAA and Turner and CBS were hoping for, because this thing's going to be an awesome matchup. With the way St. John's is playing right now, they absolutely can beat Duke. That second half against Duke was much needed. I think they needed to remind people, maybe even somebody like myself, like, we are still Duke. We are still the team that has 2 losses over the course of the entire season. Like, we can beat anybody on our day, but they're going to have to take care of the ball. They're going to have to generate offense and clean looks. They're going to have to play as physical as St. John's. St. John's is going to come in there and punch you in the mouth. I'm curious to see how Duke responds to that. If Duke responds to it and just takes it, they're going to have a chance to win this basketball game. But if Duke cowers from it a little bit, if the Duke that played Siena shows up, St. John's can absolutely win this game. And then we're talking about St. John's potentially making it to the Final Four.
It's just crazy, right? St. John's, God, the way we grew up watching St. John's, it was like,
Don't get me started.
all right. And the last matchup we're going to talk about in the East region, we've got the Michigan State Spartans, who are currently awaiting the winner of UConn and UCLA, which just tipped off a few minutes ago. So, right. So Michigan State, though, we can talk about them. They beat North Dakota State in the first round, 92-67, and then they beat Louisville 77-69. Jeremy Fears right now, man, looking like the best point guard in the country. He broke Michigan State's record for most assists in a season this season. He had 16 assists versus Louisville, which actually broke Magic Johnson's 48-year record for most assists in an NCAA tournament game. Assuming UConn wins tonight, how about a Fears Silas DeMary Jr. matchup in that game? Thoughts on Michigan State and maybe a potential matchup against UConn? You're muted, Tom.
Sorry, I'm muted. I still think that Michigan State needs to take care of the ball a little bit better. I know Fears played well, but it just felt like they let them back in. They let Louisville back in that game. They had 15 turnovers. So for as well as Fears played, and he had 16 assists, they were only a +7 in assist to turnover ratio, which when you have a guy who finished with 16 assists, like, you kind of should be a little bit further, or there should be a little bit more distance in that category. But yeah, I mean, what do they say? January, February, Izzo? Like, we're in that time, and this is the time that Tom Izzo usually takes over. It looks like Michigan State is starting to figure it out and capture themselves. This is also a Michigan State very similar to one of the, I don't remember, we were just talking about whatever matchup it was. Oh, the Iowa game with whoever they might match up with. Michigan State's played UCLA twice this year. They beat them once at home, actually lost to them at the neutral site in the Big Ten tournament. So I don't know who they'd probably rather prefer. UConn, we'll see. UConn's been really good all year, but they've also kind of looked shaky. They lost to St. John's, kind of got run off the court by St. John's in the Big East Finals. Looked okay against Furman, but not great. They're dealing with some injuries right now as well. They're a team that they have Alex Karaban and Terrace Reed. They have the inside-outside game. They have the freshman Mullins, who's absolutely a stud. Again, on their best day, UConn can play with any of these teams too. Yeah, I think Michigan State is feeling good about either matchup. To your point, Fears Jr., he's been very talked about for some of the stuff he does on the court, not necessarily basketball related. And I'm sure it's a sigh of relief for Izzo to finally be talking about this guy from a basketball perspective and not all the other stuff. And he's earned that. He's played absolutely sensationally. He was awesome yesterday against Louisville. And again, they were tested a little bit against that Louisville team, and they handled that adversity well. They're another team that when you look at the way they're built and the way they're composited, they have a little bit of everything. They have the guys inside that can play big. They have the guards that can control the tempo. They have a number of guys who can shoot. So yeah, I think Izzo likes where he's at right now. And I think if you're Michigan State, I think if you're Duke, St. John's, and whoever wins this game, I think any of those 4 teams are probably feeling pretty good about their chances to potentially make the Final Four. And that's what we want, because I think that's going to lead to good matchups next weekend on whenever these games are played.
Yeah, we got Florida and Iowa. This is coming down to the wire here with 3 minutes to go. Florida's up 1. Yeah, folks. So thanks for hanging in the loft with us for this Sweet 16 preview. The official Loft Sports podcast can be found wherever you consume your podcasts. Check out our website at loftsportus.com. We continue to add more scouting reports for the NFL draft. Tom continues to churn those out. I've been adding a new baseball preview every day. Please check out our articles, rate and review our articles. Please let us know how we're doing. Feedback is very important for us to know what we're doing, whether that's something right, maybe that's something wrong, maybe we don't know what we're doing. Let us know. Tell us how we can get better. We will be continuing our NFL draft series this Tuesday. We'll be breaking down the top running backs for this draft class. I'll have a baseball preview dropping looking like Wednesday morning this week. So check that out as well. Please follow Loft Sports USA on X, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, all 5 social platforms. Please rate and review us on whichever platform you listen to your podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. We will talk to you soon.